Hello, I'm Justin, and this is Talk Junkie. It's going to be a little mini cast, a little quick cast. I really enjoyed the podcast I did about the conspiracy theories and things of that nature. But there were some things I left out of there, various different things, and I went on to do a podcast now about the Matrix, basically the simulation. So it's kind of one of those things that is ever morphing and growing, but there were some that I just, in the haste of doing an episode, I left out and didn't talk about. So I was going to do a mini cast, kind of mention a couple of those. As you can tell from the initial two podcasts, although I believed in a lot of things when I was younger that I don't believe in now, for the most part, I don't really believe in most of these conspiracy theories. I did mention ones that we know are true, like the Gulf of Tonkin, while Johnson was president, that kind of catapulted us into the Vietnam War. We know that really happened, and you know, it was thought to be a conspiracy theory for a long time. We now know that Project Blue Book, which is associated with aliens, was a real project. We just don't know. Same with the Manhattan Project, things of that nature. A very big conspiracy theory that really made it out there for a long time was that Hitler made it out of Germany and made it to South America. It was obvious a lot of the German higher-ups, and even just Germans in general, did so. There was a lot of proof of that in South America still. But there was very little proof that Hitler ever did. I never really believed that he made it out of there. Could be, don't know. One conspiracy theory on a much lower level, though, is that Courtney Love, Cobain, whatever, had Kurt Cobain killed. Again, I'm not big on conspiracy theories, but that's one that let me say this. It would not surprise me if that were true. That's based on evidence that's been presented in a couple different documentaries. Now, you've got to understand those documentaries were designed and created to make you believe that Courtney Love did this because the person making it believes that. With the discrepancies in the suicide note, with the lawyer and the private investigator's input on it, with some of the recorded phone calls and stuff of Courtney Love, with some of the confessions of people who claim to have been a part of the conspiracy to do so. Those things seem to be, I don't know. Like I said, it's not something I'm willing to die on the hill for, because, again, it's something that I've watched a couple documentaries about that were designed to convince you of that. Nobody's made one designed to convince me that she's not, and maybe there's evidence out there, and it's sad, you know, for the daughter, Frances Bean, and the whole situation. But you know, I think a lot of it, she seems to be a nasty, mean person, and that gives people a negative view of her to begin with. But there are some factual things that I've always leaned towards that being possible. And when you get to celebrity conspiracy theories, one of the biggest ones out there right now is that all these celebrities are throwing secret hand signs and doing these secret things because they all are part of the Illuminati, and Jay-Z's in the Illuminati and things of that nature. I think it's become cool to throw those hand signs because people believe that, you know, that people have made that to where celebrities start doing that. I don't really think there's anything to it, but that's a pretty big conspiracy theory that's kind of out there right now, and it's one that I forgot to put into my other podcast. And again, this is not going to be a super in-depth podcast. This is just kind of I forgot to talk about that thing, where it's going to be real short, and I'm just going to throw some stuff out there, because there were some that I believed in that I didn't, you know, throw out there, like the Courtney Love one, and, you know, things of that nature. This is on a much broader scale, but I guess the legal system incriminating innocent people and putting them in jail is a pretty big conspiracy theory, it's one that's fairly well been proven. The Stephen Avery case is a double conspiracy theory to me in one. One, there was a conspiracy theory that the legal system shafted him and put him in and didn't want him out and did everything they could to stop him from getting out, but he got out, and that was proven to be true. Now there's this new situation where supposedly he's killed another woman, or he's killed a woman this time, and all the details of it are kind of iffy. And I'll be honest with you, it depends upon how you view that evidence. There's times that I look at it and go, well, they're definitely setting him up again. And everything would lead you to believe that because of what's happened in the past. But again, you have to understand you're watching something that is skewed to make you feel that way. But conspiracy theories of that nature are really becoming big right now because to be honest with you, it's happening so often. There's just so many people being falsely accused and falsely imprisoned. Damien Echols in the West Memphis 3, that's becoming a very commonplace in our society. Unfortunately, that's a horrible thing because it does two things: it puts innocent people in jail, and it lets the real perpetrators go free. And there's a ton of those that we could go into, but kind of put them in a general thing because I don't, to me that's a conspiracy theory. I don't know to what degree it actually is. There's the conspiracy theory that George Bush, went to war to defend his father, not gun debt, but he did. And that the whole war with Saddam Hussein was because of his father. I don't believe that. George Sr. was head of the CIA. He was vice president under Reagan. He was president of the United States of America. He's got pretty hard skin. I believe probably there is, to some degree, there is a conspiracy theory there. It's one of multiple things. I mean, we attacked a country that was not directly responsible for the act we were retaliating for, so therefore that leads to a conspiracy. Either it was to avenge his father, which seems to be the highly unlikely. It was horrible intel in regards to the weapons of mass destruction, which, I never did trust Cheney, so maybe Cheney gave bad intel so he would attack. Or it was for the oil. Cheney was very involved with Halliburton. I lean towards it was for the oil. But, that's always been a conspiracy theory, and it's one I've heard quite often that he did so to avenge his father's name. Not really sure. Again, that's the least likely of the three, but at one point in time it was the most predominantly widespread. They said Saddam wiped his feet on a rug with President Bush Sr.'s face on it, coming into his house, or had a rug made or a floor made so he could walk on his face. I don't know. Saddam doesn't do any of those things now because Saddam's dead. Or supposedly, there's a conspiracy theory out there that Saddam, as along with Osama bin Laden, are not dead. There's a lot of kind of conspiracy theories when it gets in the realm of terrorists and enemies of the United States. So, I don't know. I don't really get into those. There's a conspiracy theory. I found this one online, and I know I'd heard people joking, but I didn't know this was a real thing. There's a conspiracy theory apparently that, there's two versions of this. One, that the United States government actually is running Putin and his regime, and then there's one vice versa, that Putin and his regime are running Senor Trump. If you guys have not heard President Trump speak, I think you should really go back and listen to some of his speeches. He's too arrogant to be ran by Putin, so that's probably the most ignorant statement I've ever heard in my life. On the other hand, Mike Pence seems to be the brains of that duo. Mike Pence is too stupid to run Putin, so I'm not on board with either one of those two conspiracy theories. But conspiracy theories are really fun, and I'm going to leave some out. I'm going to forget some. I always do. So if there's something I forgot and you want me to discuss it, or you want to just message me about it, authorjperk@gmail.com. No, it's not. authorjperk at Gmail. gmail.com? Wow. I don't know. It's authorjperk@gmail.com is what it is. That's sad. Jay Perkins is a YouTube page. Just get in contact with me, and if there's anything that I've forgotten, because there were a couple, and that's why I wanted to kind of do this, because a couple of these had been mentioned to me, and one came up in conversation. The Courtney Love one had come up in conversation with a friend of mine, so I was like, okay, why did I not add that to the list of possible conspiracy theories, because it's one that I particularly happen to believe in. Somebody did say I didn't mention Bob Lazar and Area 51, but I did. It was addressed in both of those. Look, I don't know. I believe Bob Lazar believes Bob Lazar is telling the truth, and that's kind of the extent of my beliefs on that. I don't believe that. I don't know. I don't know what I believe there, but I believe Bob Lazar believes Bob Lazar is telling the truth. And there are some things that are kind of iffy about the story involving Bob Lazar. So, that kind of is what it is. They're the big one. This is the big one. And at some point in time, when all this is over and all the craziness is gone, I want to do all the coronavirus ones that Chinese government developed it and released it. The American government developed it and released it. The American scientists built it, sold it to the Chinese. That the aliens released it. I don't know if that's actually one or not, but it should be, if nothing else. Anything involving aliens is a guaranteed solid conspiracy theory. You thought you were getting through a whole episode of conspiracy theories without that. That's cute. But, again, that's one I'd like to go back and touch at some point in time. I know there's some, like I said, that I'm probably forgetting right now. I don't know. We'll just have to revisit them as many times as possible, because these are really fun. This is really short. We're going to keep it under 15 minutes. We're at 12 minutes or something right now. All the stuff I usually say, do all those things. Like, subscribe, share, go to all the places I said I usually go. Don't suck to other people, and don't die, and let's get you a quote.